Episode 11 of The Messenger, the Rachel Cancer Scam. Previously on The Messenger, you learned a little bit about the narcissist, how they hate to lose more than they love to win, and also why I call this podcast The Messenger. Now, something I haven't shared with you that I think is important is that I basically became a shut-in during this time. I promised you more about me and what I've gone through. And I thought it was my role. I worked, I ran my business. I, was essentially working as Rachel's emotional caregiver. I said, listen, you got a cardiologist, you've got a nephrologist, you've got an oncologist, you've got all these different ologists. I would jokingly say, I'm your emotion-ologist. I thought it was my job. Some days we'd be on the phone the entire day. She'd send a text, I'd send a video. This entire thing just is so much to digest. Even now, sharing these details of what I went through, how it quite literally crushed me and ruined me. How I alienated every friend in my life because I refused to keep living my life. I loved her as if I'd never loved anybody. You see, I was a guy with 2 failed marriages. I was a guy that did just enough to get by in relationships, always. As a matter of fact, and some of you underachievers listening may hear something that resonates with you here, but when I was a kid, I remember the teachers saying to my parents, he's a bright kid. He just needs to apply himself. So that lack of application transferred to relationships. It's almost identical to how I handled my studies. It's not how I handle my work. It's not how I handle my business. Nor is it how I handle my friendships. And as I sit here now doing this, sharing the most intimate of details about my side of this story, I think to myself, I haven't told anyone in my life about this. I haven't spoken with my mother about this. I haven't spoken to my friends that were there every single day. I told my doctor about it. That's it. Yet, here I am sharing this with you. I'm sharing it anonymously at this point, knowing full well that I too will be exposed. It's just a matter of time. Not really exposed, but you'll find out who I am, and that's okay. It's just not okay now. Not at this moment. I have to speak to these people. Many of these people have already heard from me in a way about the situation. I began apologizing to everyone in my life. For those of you in the program, by the way, I'm not in the program, but steps 8 and 9, make a list of those people you've harmed and make direct amends with those people whenever possible. And what I did was I told people that the situation was too much. She was too sick. She was in protective isolation. Her immune system wasn't getting any better. The paralysis she had. And she had memory loss. I alluded to this quite a bit. She claimed that she had multiple surgeries to remove the brain tumor, and that had an impact on her mind and memory. By the way, that's the way I think she plotted her escape plan. She set up the surgery that led to memory loss at the beginning of May in 2023. And time on this is important to the story. Early on, I spoke to you about one of the other men that Rachel was involved with at the airport. He worked at the same airline, was a coworker of hers. Rachel and this man ended up connecting one night at a coworker's home after having drinks. The gathering was in April 29th of 2023, end of the month. Apparently, Rachel and this man disappeared together, found an unoccupied room, as the story was relayed to me, and that's where events took place. The event that would lead to Rachel telling coworkers 3 days later that this coworker had drugged and attacked her, forced himself on her. Rachel told a coworker that she was actually calling her from the hospital where she had been since the night of the alleged attack. That's 2 hospital stays at once for those of you scratching your heads right now. As far as I knew, she was in the hospital for cancer treatment. And as far as that coworker knew, Rachel was in the hospital recovering from that vicious attack. People at work began to question Rachel. She shared the story with others. I can't imagine what would cause someone to lie about an assault of that nature. Other than needing to cover yourself off, because women at work knew that Rachel was still married, would they judge her? Maybe she had to concoct it to protect herself. Still, men don't ever recover from those lies. Pressure mounted at work for Rachel to report it. Co-workers were initially stunned, angry with the male co-worker. Rachel ended up recanting the entire story, saying she made it all up. All just a hoax. No assault, no hospital stay. Just consensual activities with a coworker. Coworker who also happened to be cheating on a significant other. I never asked, but I would imagine that was the time, months and months before her cancer scam broke, that people began to scratch their heads about her around the airport. She ended up concocting the story about not only being a registered nurse, but a trauma nurse at around that time as well. She, of course, brought Mercy Air, the air ambulance company, into that lie. She began to say that she was working for them as not only a trauma nurse, but she worked as a pilot as well, a helicopter pilot. I'm sure she thought long and hard about how to recover from the lie about being assaulted. So what did she do? She invented this other story involving her second daughter attempting to take her own life. An insane lie. Rachel began to ask the girls at work to cover her shifts so that she could continue to visit her daughter in the hospital and keep her second job, a job that was oh so important as a pilot and a trauma nurse with Mercy. The girls obliged. They covered off and helped her out. As I mentioned a few moments ago, we're talking about an event with the assault that happened on April 29th. And 2 days before, the brain surgery that she claimed would take 10 years of memory away from her. This was her disappearing act, laying the groundwork. She woke up from that surgery and claimed to not remember who I was to her at that point in her life. All she claimed to remember was this old friend that met her in 2001 and wasn't really around much. Friend, maybe friend with benefits, however you want to put it. I'd try to help. I'd say, look down at your left hand. Tell me about that ring on your finger. Do you know who gave it to you? Or why you're wearing it? She would say, no, but it's beautiful. I don't know where it came from. And it was like that, all day long with various things. It's a page out of 50 First Dates. But of course, I didn't get to see her in person. I didn't get to hand off our baby. You know how that story ended. And just 3 weeks after that alleged surgery and attack by a coworker, Rachel and Mark went on their anniversary trip. That very same week, she began to complain more and more about the pain and memory loss, and things were driving her crazy. She was getting angry. She claimed to wake up angry every day that she doesn't remember anything. She was sick of being touched by doctors, poked and prodded. But what that was just the escape hatch. I believed that. She began to start telling me she wanted me to go live my life. She would say, Harry, it's not fair to you. You didn't sign up for this. I'm paralyzed. We can never be together physically anyway. I can't take care of myself and all of that. She would do that sometimes once a day. I remained steadfastly by her side, pledged my love, told her I wasn't going anywhere, and that I would never leave her. Small town crime can be horrific. Some of the darkest stories, the most chilling and heinous murders happen where you least expect it. In small towns, these crimes often get overlooked, but not on True Crimecast, where these cases are put in the spotlight. Join hosts Jamie and John every week as they uncover chilling cases from notorious murders that shook the world to small-town mysteries that have flown under the radar until now. Get ready for gripping storytelling, spine-tingling details, and cases you've yet to hear about. True Crime Cast, wherever you get your podcasts. Brought to you by Stoveleg Media. There was this, for lack of a better word, this giant mindfuck with memory. And then there were times where she would say, I've always loved you. I've always been in love with you since the day we met. I don't remember this us you speak of. And she said, what if I don't remember you? And I said, if you don't remember me, my plan is to sneak in and steal your heart again like I did the first time. My plan is to court you again, to get you to fall in love with me, to reintroduce you to the man I am today versus the man I was 10 or 20 years ago. I will win your heart again, and I will get you to fall in love with me again. I was done being the guy that did just enough to get by in these situations. She couldn't remember the last 10 years of her life, which means she didn't remember she and I being a couple. So essentially what I said to people was, this was killing me. I need to just walk away. I never once said to anybody, you're not going to fucking believe this. You're not going to believe what she did, what transpired. Everything I ever told you about Rachel was a lie. I didn't say that. I just apologized for being who I was. I'm going to have to talk to these people. And there have been a couple of people, not here, but in other places that I've shared it with, who said, are you sure you want to share this? Are you sure you want it out there? What will people say? What will they say about you? What will they think about you? About how you met her? I'm concerned about that. And I thought to myself, well, I love you. Thanks for sharing that with me. I knew that was coming. And I feel now that what this particular person said to me was almost in disgust. Like, how could you fall for that? There's nothing that anyone that's listening to this podcast that hears this story or that wants to be critical of me, any of that, anything that's going to be worse than what I've done to myself over this. If self-loathing and hate were a combat sport, I'd be a black belt with 10 stripes. If it were a business, I'd be Apple. I'd be the Amazon of self-loathing and hate. Think about something. Humor me for a second. Not that you haven't been for 10 episodes of this already. But I want to say this without patting myself on the back to try to illustrate a point. Let's say your husband or your wife or your girlfriend or your boyfriend, they get sick, terminally ill, and you can't see that person. All you can do is be by this person's side in a virtual way. What would you do? COVID taught us a lot about surviving in a virtual world. I know that my voice resonates. She always found comfort in it. And I read her favorite books. She would talk incessantly about how she loved to listen to my voice and to fall asleep listening to me, telling her a story. And what that told me, and what that tells me, is that I have something in me that I could use to keep her company, to keep her alive. My ability to use my voice as an instrument. To be able to say, close your eyes and listen to the story I'm going to share with you. Make sure that you're comfortable, that you have a drink nearby, and that you're ready to rest and close your eyes. Once upon a time, there was a man who fell in love with the most beautiful girl he had ever seen. And that girl was a wolf in sheep's clothing. She, as it would turn out, is the meanest girl in the entire land. She would mislead him. She would pretend to fall in love with him. She would fake a pregnancy, fake a miscarriage, pretend to have cancer and to be paralyzed. She would fake being single and available to this man. And worst of all, near the end, when she was out of lies, She pretended not to remember any of that. She just remembered him as the boy that was never her boyfriend. The boy that didn't pick her. Like that, right? That's what I did. That's what I did for 2 years. And guess what? I had an endless supply of what she needed. All I have to do is open my mouth, and that's what came out. That's what comes out. By the way, it took me 3 times to read that story because I had tears running down my face. Because it's the saddest story I've ever known. Think for a moment about how this started and what I told you in the first episode. People have said, why did you even stick around? Why did you do it? I believed her because I still loved her. And of course, I said, why didn't you just talk to me? I tried to do all this in a pragmatic way. I could very well not be here now. You can ask anyone that's in my life or has been in my life. People were worried and concerned about me for good reason. I was fucked up. And here's a news flash. I'm still not okay. Now, I'm not in danger of self-harming, but I'm broken, if I'm being honest. I'm a broken man, working on getting better. And doing this, it's like I can't get away from Rachel. And I'm sure it's my own fault. Listen, I could have kept my mouth shut, not gone public. I will move forward. I am moving forward. And I do every single thing I can to forget what was in my mind the greatest single love of my life. And I'll be left to think, well, that would have been nice to be someone's person, to love and to be loved, as Rachel would say to me. That message from October 7th when she said, I want to see what I'm capable of. That was the hold my beer moment. That was the ad. That was her saying to me, I'm yours if you want. I referred to it as the ad. She had an opening in her heart to love and to be loved. I wanted to apply immediately, and apply I did, and I got the job. Not really the job I was going for, though. I applied. I handed her my heart. It went out on a silver platter. She would tell me after we picked each other, "You're the greatest gift of my life." Think about the power in that statement. It's so much. I've alluded to a lot that was going on medically. So much of what was going on in the early stages of her hospital stay and through the summer and through the fall. A lot of that was not just her cancer, but all around stuff with her heart. Chemo's rough on the heart. She had heart issues. Had them leading up to this as well. I gotta wonder, there were things that she told me that I wonder if she was trying to say, Harry, verify this. Verify there's no way anyone could live through this and call me out and leave me for lying to you. She's a coward. At one point, after she was caught, I said, why didn't you just tell me the truth? You've known me for half of your life. You could have broken up with me. Nothing you're hearing is anything that I wouldn't say to her. And honestly, I know she's listening to these. We know that. So in a way, as I do this episode, it's kind of a chance to speak with her in a way. So I say, Rachel, when I asked you why you didn't just break up with me, why did you say, I tried to get you to leave me? Those were your words. You said, I tried to get you to leave me. What she was talking about was she tried with these stories of being assaulted by doctors, by telling me that she couldn't remember us. She tried with all of it, thinking I'd drive myself crazy and end up doing something to myself or just dead or in jail or to someone else or something. I said, Rachel, God damn it. You told me everything but the fucking truth. You couldn't do it, and you sure as shit can't do it now. Come on the podcast. Let's do this. Let's have one last conversation about this. I get that you don't want to talk about Martin or Russ or the women at work or any of the people that you fucked over in your life. We don't need to talk about your daughters, 2 daughters that you made up fake stories of suicide attempts, or Madison changing her name because that's the name you picked when you worked. Come on here, talk to me. Let me interview you. I dare you. I double dog dare you. You can approve the questions. You can't win with me. You wouldn't last 5 minutes with me. Keep telling people on social media that there are stories that are lies and betrayal. There's not a detail, which I've shared, that can't be backed up on my phone. And I'll be making my phone available for abstract, as the attorneys would say. I took detailed notes. I'm a voracious note taker and a detail guy, and I have a memory like a steel trap. Rachel, I slept with a phone under my pillow every night, thinking I'd get a phone call or a message from your daughter or the hospital that you died. And that made me want to end my life because I couldn't help you. Do you know that? Next time on The Messenger, the Rachel cancer scam. The time that Rachel's daughter told me she was pronounced dead. And you'll hear the voicemail that would change everything. On the season 1 finale of The Messenger, the Rachel cancer scam.